Hello, my name is Taylor, and this is the Crossroads of Civilization exhibit that we went through at the Milwaukee Public Museum. And this is my fourth try recording this, and so sorry if I mess up a little bit, but I'm just going to be kind of going with it because I tried pausing it and then re-going, and it just ends up deleting it, so we're just going to kind of go with it today. So, let's go to this first slide. This was the construction exhibit, and this had to do with the cities and buildings in ancient civilizations. And as we walked into this exhibit, this area, we passed under a modeled section of a Roman aqueduct that was in Israel. This right here, these two pictures, are from a scale model that the Milwaukee Public Museum created of the first courtyard of the temple of Pharaoh Ramses III. So this guy right here is in charge of all these slaves, and what the slaves received in return was basically they received boarding and they received food. So I guess they were happy with that, and they helped build these ginormous courtyards. This right here, so this is a picture that was described with some ancient cultures had large stone sources for building, including Egypt that had limestone, sandstone, and granite, whereas Italy used and had marble. And but the hardest stones could be worked into complex and beautiful forms with wooden mallets, metal chisels, and hammers made from even the harder stones. These fragments shown in the picture are from Roman buildings that are nearly 2,000 years old, and they were collected in the 19th century from dig sites, simply just picked up by archaeologists. But if you tried that today, these areas are so protected that that wouldn't be possible. Next, we move into the communion exhibit, which is the religion and belief systems. And we're not referring to the specific Christian practice here, but rather the broader concept of people sharing an emotional or spiritual bond with deities with their own deceased. So, this right here, you may see, these are two mummies, and they are Peti Hiru and Jed Hor, who have been part of the Milwaukee Public Museum's collection since 1887. And you may think, why mummification? But preserving human bodies in tombs was essential to the Egyptians' beliefs about an afterlife. To the Egyptians, as to many other ancient people in these civilizations, the connection between what we call the living and the dead was vital and ongoing. So life would continue after death of the physical body, but only if certain steps were taken to preserve that body, and that had to do with mummification. So on the right here, you will see these are actually 4 gods and goddesses, and they are 4 of hundreds of these gods and goddesses, but they are encountered so frequently, and they are known as the sons of Horus. And they are charged with the protection of a dead person's internal organs. And of all these organs, the selected ones for preservation during mummification were the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines. Sorry, that's a mouthful right there. But they were removed and dried separately to inhibit decay. Then they were either placed in what today are called canopic jars, or in certain periods they were wrapped into linen bundles and replaced in the mummy's abdomen. So it really kind of depended on the time. So after the communion, we went into the community, and these are all pottery pieces. Pottery pieces. Here's my little clicker. And it's one of the most common finds from archaeological sites. And even though it breaks easily, it usually doesn't disintegrate. and is found in large quantities at these sites. And much of the pottery is for household use, but was commonly placed in burials as well. Some pottery is plain, some has simple designs, and other types are elaborately decorated, which all adds to our understanding of aspects of the daily life that we may not be able to understand otherwise. They may depict social activities, clothing styles, and even religious rites, all because of these pottery pieces, which I think is pretty cool. Okay. Oh yeah, this was aspects of daily life, if I didn't already mention that. Okay, communication, here we are. So this one on the right, or left, is the Rosetta Stone, and there are 3 main languages right here. So this one was the hardest to decipher, but as we got down, these people who were trying to figure out what this said, they realized that this translated to this, and this translated to this, but this is still these two are not as easily deciphered as this bottom one. This is the Babylonian cylinder, and it is inscribed with 3 registers of cuneiform writing, and it was found with 5 others at the site of Murad, which was 20 miles southeast of Babylon proper, and it was ritually buried during the restoration of the temple to the local god Lugal-Maratha. And these inscribed cylinders served as royal propaganda, proclaiming that the king has carried out major building restorations and constructed city walls and new palaces. So yeah, that is about it for the communication aspect. Next we move on to commerce, and this is all had to do with the trade and coinage of these ancient civilizations. So once again we have commerce, and basically long-distance trade among various civilizations played an important role in ancient economies beyond basic localized commercial transactions. So when we start at the village-level societies, most people are self-sufficient, growing their own food and making the things they need. And within early civilizations with large populations, many specialists, out of necessity, had to barter with each other for the things each needed. However, once you get to the higher social level, the need for exotic or rare luxuries and necessities resulted in complex systems of commerce and exchange. Trading and bartering of one of the commodity for another in-kind transactions, which was what they were called, led to the introduction of standardized weights and measures, and even eventually to true coinage, which is shown in this picture. Oof, that was a rough one. I'm sorry about that. But basically, as you went up the social class, they needed more and more exotic goods, and therefore resulted in trade, and then you got the coinage. Okay, next we move on to conflict, which is probably personally one of my favorite parts that we got to see, because you got to see how the Romans, not just the Romans, but like all these different civilizations, how they fought. So, on the left is a Greek hoplite, and in Greece, every able-bodied man was a citizen soldier, expected from age 18 to defend his city-state. And originally, each man had to supply his own panoply of armor and weapons. And as you can see on this man, bronze helmets and grates protected the head and lower legs. So, oh yeah, so one important thing about the Greek hoplite is that they were arranged in kind of a triangular formation, whereas the Persian archers on the left, were arranged in like rows, and they started with kind of the marchers, and like the less skilled fighters. And as you got back farther and farther, it was the more skilled archers. And you can tell that, as I keep saying archers, they had bows and arrows compared to the Greeks, who had like these swords, and they also had, what is shown in the next one, they had these chariot things. So definitely you see the different civilizations and how their war techniques kind of were different. So this was most commonly used for the upper class people, and as you can see, this was King Tut, and he's a pretty big deal. But if this was used in war, there would be one person here, this would be the driver, and then the person who was able to fight. And they would basically just circle this war zone, and they'd be kind of like the last man standing because they were so advanced and they were able to move so well. So I'm sorry if that was a little rough in places, but I hope you got the main idea. This was all from the Crossroads of Civilization exhibit. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk, blabber on about this, but thank you once again, and I hope you enjoyed.